order. We're gonna start with the EDC. I'd like a motion to approve the minutes from the June 24th meeting.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on to resolution.
So this is a removal of personal guarantees on a specific loan. Dispatch Brewery received a loan from WEDC in 2021 to open up a brewery. And they initially had 4 owners, each owning 25% each. 2 of them are no longer owners. That is Donna and Daniel Godowan. And so now the 2 owners are Dave and Colleen Stalker. They collectively they own 100%, and so this resolution would remove the 2 people from the loan documents and as personal guarantors, and keep Dave and Colleen Stalker as guarantors and responsible for paying the loan.
Any questions?
The only question I have, and I think you answered it in here, is it, so you reviewed the finances to make sure like we're comfortable with the remaining, like who's left? So we looked at personal financials or something to say we're comfortable that this is gonna get paid, right?
Yes, they've been good at paying on a regular basis. Dave has been pretty much the main contact since the beginning, and they have the better credits as well.
Good. Yeah, good.
Motion to accept,
So moved. Second.
all in favor? Okay.
Okay, so we are, well, if you wouldn't mind going to the WEDC, and we'll look at it on the. Yeah, so I have the loan, terms up again, and the reason for this, we made the change last month in regards to nonprofits and government organizations having 0% for interest rate. And the one thing we wanted sort of to create as a discussion piece is that we have this minimum amount of $50,000 for a brownfield RLF. Now that is not a requirement from EPA, it's just a range we identified, because if you're gonna do remediation through this funding, there's a lot of requirements, so you don't wanna have a really small amount or so much work that needs to partake with this RLF program. Although in speaking with one of our potential applicants, the land bank, it might be under $50,000 for 1 or 2 of the applications. And as you know, the land bank is working on a large project. Several of those buildings and parcels will be going towards their EPA multi-purpose grant, but a handful, which are separate parcels, will be going towards the RLF, or potentially going towards the RLF. They have provided a pre-application, but not a full application, so it's not ready for the board, but my hopes is it will be in the next month or 2. And, but again, it may fall under the $50,000, because again, it's gonna be split up by parcel instead of the whole project. So I'm bringing this to the board because I don't want it to create this wrinkle when we're taking that next step. I don't really.
We just do it as an exception?
We could, well, I mean, it's good to be consistent. Maybe we have $50,000, we could even, again, break it up for profits and nonprofits, or we could say something like, we could even put it down to 20,000, even though technically I don't think most entities would wanna do 20,000 for the EPA RLF program, just because again, there's a lot of requirements in order to achieve that goal. But I'm just trying to make sure that we're not creating any snags in order to move these projects forward.
What amount, do you have an amount kind of in your head where you would recommend doing it, where you see this?
Did you guys get any updates or information on potential amounts that they might be applying for? No?
No, still breaking down the.
I mean, cause we can always lower the minimum, and then if it doesn't fit for anyone, they just don't have a loan that small, right?
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, if we knock it in half, down to 25,000, that should.
And then it's
Yeah.
consistent
Most
with the
others-
revolving loan fund?
Right, it does. So we could do that.
Yeah.
Break it down to
I'm good with
25. Okay. Alright, let's do that. Thank you, and then the next 2 pages, now these, we discussed the fee schedule back in the fall for the majority of the loan programs. But now in looking at what the Brownfield RLF program will entail, I sort of have simplified the fee schedule. So, and I've also separated it for government agencies and for nonprofits, mainly because one, it's gonna be very hard for governments and nonprofits to pay some of these fees, as well as we don't really know what the attorney fees are gonna be, because in certain circumstances, we will have to be using our consultant that has an attorney on retainer as part of our RFP process. We also have an attorney that comes with them who has experience in brownfield redevelopment. So we will be using John for our traditional loan closing materials and looking at it as the WEDC thing, but we may have certain requirements in regards to brownfields that we might not be able to obtain a good amount at this time. So that's why for both the government agencies and nonprofits and the for-profit ones, I just put attorney fees are at cost, mainly because we just don't know at this time. And it may depend, it will depend with each project. I don't think we can give a range due to the amount of loan funds we will have, because it's, with brownfields, there's a lot of unknowns, and there are things that come up even within the remediation process that we might not be aware of.
You would disclose in the paperwork though what the attorney's rates are, right?
Yes, yes.
Everyone okay? Any other questions? Looks good. You need a motion or we good?
As long as you guys are fine with it, we can move it forward. You know, as I mentioned, the land bank has provided some pre-applications. The pre-applications are basically there to verify that it's an approvable use for the brownfield RLF, as reviewed by our environmental consultants, which is Montrose, which then allows us to take this next step with the land bank in order to do the actual loan application. And so that loan application is that next step that we can work with them. They did just receive some quotes, so I think you can start making some next steps with them within the next few months. And I'm really hopeful for that because I think we need to get some action before the end of the year for the federal government so we can show progress with these funding sources.
Do you need a motion? I'll make a motion to
We can make a motion.
accept the fee schedules for the government agencies and nonprofits and the fee schedule for the for-profit agencies.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you. And we'll keep you up to date on that. You know, I think it's exciting that we're making this progress and being part of that large project over at Canal Street. There's a lot of properties that are going to be remediated under their multi-purpose grant and potentially with the RLF program. Okay.
Fiscal officer.
So do we want to go to executive session now, or do we want to do fiscal officer?
Let's do fiscal officer.
Okay. So fiscal officer report, we have our bank accounts. We did this as of June 30th, but just to let you know, we have some additional investments in here. We did receive $25,000 from an old loan back in the late 80s, early 90s of someone who did not pay their loan, and we had a lien on their property. A person passed away, and they were going to sell the property, and the $25,000 came to Dicey.
Yeah.
So,
Many of you guys are.
Yeah.
I could talk for hours, but no, this was not the loan deal. This was, not really sure frankly what the loan was made for. The lien was on a home, so personal property of somebody who passed away. And we had, for this one, which was a little strange, did not have like any kind of record of payments on an amortization schedule. It didn't appear, they have records anywhere that there was any payment made at all. So here, our attorney reached out, went through paperwork, asked them to find anything, we didn't have anything, they didn't have anything, so we didn't have any record of payment, they just paid off, and they did. We moved our lien.
Nice.
This is why we file liens, though,
Yeah,
we're good why they
nice when
stay
that
there
works out.
I know.
for decades, because
Cause those have been refiled annually, right?
no, they're there,
But the
they're
liens,
there,
you
they
don't have
live,
to.
and
With a mortgage lien, you don't have to refile it,
UCCs.
UCC, you have to do it every 5 years.
Oh, I guess, okay.
And then we can move forward to the budget versus actuals. I guess the other thing, we did receive the BOCES lease amount as well too. And next month we'll be also bringing the lease agreement to you guys as well. So that's in the works. And then if they go to the next page for the loan aging report, everyone is paid in full who is currently paying on a regular basis. So that is good, everyone is up to date for July of this year. And I think now we should ask to go into executive.
motion to go into executive session.
you, Brian.
I can give you, so, we are hiring a new fiscal officer. His name is Chris Lipitor. Chris was, had a number of different roles at M&T Bank. Owned and operated, his own businesses for a while. He was his own CFO, good handle on numbers, everything, experience. Katie and I think are both excited to be bringing him on. His first day will be August 11th. Allied's been great, Katie's been great, everybody's been great, Katie has going. Like Katie, I don't know. Still trying to find out. We've had so many Katies.
All
and
smell
stuff.
different, yes.
But Katie Bronson and I and the folks at Allied sat down last week and kind of walked through a general orientation plan with Chris. So they'll be around. We're gonna get busy pretty quick here, heading into quarter 3 and quarter 4 especially, with pilot billing and audit. But I'm comfortable we'll be fine. I personally have done pilot billing years ago, but familiar with it. We'll get through it, and Jake did a great job putting us in a good position to make that.
They did it 100 years ago in Virginia.
This is
I
a
did not.
full-time position?
Yes, right.
This is a full, yes, yep, full-time position. Yeah, Chris is motivated to, he's not, how do I say this? How did he say it? Money's not his motivation, let's put it that way. We had made an offer to
Very nice.
other fiscal officers. So,
They seem
Interested.
pretty excited about the position.
Yeah.
I think anybody that works in these jobs Really? I think, pretty sure,
Yeah.
the money's pretty good. I mean, but then again, I'm just a small business person, you know, so to me, the money looks really good.
Is he a local guy?
Yeah, well, he lives, yes, I believe he lives in Newark.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Newark, right.
Just always helps good retention, very close one.
Yeah, my fiance went to my classes.
We could do these now, I mean, I don't really differentiate between IDA and EDC updates for you guys, and you've, I think, had a chance to review them, so just kind of keeping you in the loop on, we talk a lot about energy, whether it's on the IDA or EDC side of things, so there was a substation improvement project in Sodas. I'll say, some of this is about making sure it's not about, so we talk about regional generation, power, we need more power and power buildings and houses and all the stuff that we're doing. So projects like this are more about improvements in the distribution system and making sure we can move power around. Like this one, generally speaking, we have about sort of from the west side of the county to about the middle of the county, give or take 5 megawatts of power available for economic development projects. Not a ton, but enough, that's a fair amount of power. But we do see projects that ask for all 5, 20 in some cases, which we could not meet that demand as it is today. Lots of big picture conversations, you guys are reading the news about nuclear power, state's initiative, counties. What's that?
A lot of talking going on.
Yes.
Yep, good conversations, I would say, constellations
Absolutely.
involved a lot. County's doing what we can to put ourselves in a position to see if there's an opportunity, these plants are good, provide a significant amount of jobs. But this is a long play, it'll be a long term, so I would say over the next 5 to 10 years, so we'll see how this all plays out. But in the interim, RG&E/NYSEG making general improvements to the distribution system, but I'll say there's a 178 unit housing project in Ontario County in Canandaigua that is entirely stalled, and potentially completely off the books, given the need for a substation improvement project to serve that load. That improvement project is estimated at $15 million. So these are big, expensive distribution projects, and we talk about housing. This is not machinery and equipment, this is not economic development, this is not job creation. can't serve housing project, we're really confined on this trash side of things, so.
So I don't mean to interrupt, but
No,
just so you
you're
guys know,
fine. Please.
tomorrow night at the Public Safety Building, the NICEAG RGB team will be there for people that have any questions about their buildings and all of that, so it's from 4 to 7 tomorrow night.
They're doing a better job than they have.
Maureen's, she's new, she's really focused and really trying to get to the communities.
Yeah,
Hopefully I send it to the supervisors, so hopefully someone else can make
new leadership at NICE, you guys, a couple years ago, I think they're making sure that their customer service
it.
stuff is better.
And she came to our LEPC.
Trish, or
Maureen.
Maria.
Is that
yeah.
right? $38 million for a housing project for 74 units?
Yes, that is right. But this is this is really a 98 thing, but I mean a little bit above, but you can see, 30-year pilot agreement for a housing project.
Yeah.
It's really just gonna keep the finger on the pulse, so you guys know
I
that
think there's a lot of discussion around that though, I'll be interested to see if that
yeah.
happens.
there is a lot of discussion. Yes, that's a good way to say it. Lots of discussion. So county infrastructure, the state created this program pretty quickly and in short order, let everybody know, around this time last year, give or take. We submitted an application basically, this is kind of economic development, working with municipalities. Generally, so it's $50 million, it was $50 million, only eligible to counties, up to $1 million. Kicker to get the full million was that it had to serve a housing project, otherwise eligible for half. Reached out to supervisors, we had like a 6-week application window. And got a project from the town of Lyons who had been working through sidewalk replacement project, applied for funding, and we are receiving that funding. So we're helping Lyons repair and replace a bunch of sidewalks here, $500,000. That's county.
And this funding will come up again, they have put it in the budget, so.
That's where I was getting.
So that's only in the park though? It's not around,
No, it focused in the park,
is it
But-
park?
yes, so Central Park, but also, is that Taylor Park, the one over there, the corner?
That's right.
And then they had a study with the Genesee Finger Lakes Regional Council, and it sort of did this deep walk of sort of the main downtown area and identified sidewalks that needed improvement.
They've been
So
like-
they're
yeah.
utilizing that plan in order to implement their sidewalk plan. But we said we would start here and then move out to see how far we could go with the funding.
Just kind of neat, FYI, I mean, just tell your friends and neighbors, I mean, if you have sidewalks and you're interested in doing a survey, there's a company that has an app, it's pretty cheap. Where they take a cell phone, I think, off the sidewalk and it takes pictures and evaluates the condition of the
What's the name of
sidewalks.
Deep Walk,
This one?
it's called Deep Walk.
We could share some detail, but a great way to do sort of a sidewalk inventory
That was the
survey.
one thing I wanted to find out.
Identify which ones are in the most need of repair and what condition they're in.
Yeah, that's good. I'll be interested to see where that goes,
Yeah,
because I know the sidewalks like down Monsoon where the senior housing over there.
Yeah.
There's always seniors on their scooters that come
Oh,
up to
yeah,
the park and
next,
everything, they have to go on the road because the sidewalk's so bad you can tip over.
Yeah.
Is it up at
Yeah,
stop
yeah.
there? It's the street leading up to Taylor, so Taylor Park is at the end, but like you gotta go down Montezuma and then over to the senior.
Yeah.
Our apartments there. That would be really good.
To Katie's point, the county itself is the only eligible applicant here, but this was refunded in this year's fiscal budget. I would like to be a little more ahead of the game. No formal announcement of a program or any opportunity, that I'm thinking about the bridge. Here,
This
another
one right
project, but the county's pursuing the potential of acquiring the closed bridge here at Lyons from the state. It needs rehab, it'll be a very expensive project. I doubt we can tie it to a housing project per se, unless there's some way to. But $500,000 help out a little bit, but it's real interesting because it's a county program. structure tends to be quite local, right? Towns tend to control, or villages for that matter, a lot of the water, sewer, road stuff. But we're keeping an eye on it, and we'll be looking to see if there's an opportunity to find something as we move forward. Any other business or is that it? That's it?
Okay. The next meeting is August 6th, I've got a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Sure. Over to IDA, call it, maybe it's all set. Call the meeting in order, I'd like a motion to approve the June 24 meeting minutes.
Second.
All in favor? Let's go. Monroe.
Yes, so this is a pilot that was approved in December of last year, 100 Dunn Road LLC. It's with Dependable Disposal and Morgan Rubbish Removal. They're building a building over here in the Lions Industrial Park and creating new jobs. Now, as part of their project, their total project costs increased. And so they have come back to us to increase their sales tax exemption. I have in the pilot summary where those adjustments have been made and a little description of where it's, the reason for that increase. So, they wouldn't get an additional $192,000, it would just be a total of $192,000 for their sales tax exemption. And so this resolution here would allow us to adjust our sales tax exemption forms with the state so they can get additional sales tax exemption for this project. Does anyone have any questions of the, yes?
I have a question about the spirit of what we do here and we're giving them a sales tax exemption on a new truck, be in the spirit of helping them build a building on a piece of property they got a really great deal on.
I mean,
It's just a question.
so, the truck, depends on how you think about it, but the sales tax exemption we provide for projects in general, it's for stuff to outfit and operate your business, so a computer, a desk, a chair, it's not just construction materials and building a building. The sales tax exemption can be applied to anything that gets the building and its contents positioned to operate and create those jobs. So there are vehicles are, it's not uncommon, we don't see it a lot, but it's
I've
not
never seen
uncommon.
it before here.
I'm sure we have.
I've seen it in Monroe County and I've seen people lose their jobs over buying a Mercedes in a pilot agreement.
It's not this.
Well, it's a $395,000 truck, it's a really nice truck.
Their
Yeah,
business is
so-
truck.
Well,
I
and
know,
just to give you information on this as well, the part of the reason for locating to this location was to expand our business in the area. And in order to do that, trucks was part of the part of the plan. This truck in particular, from what they tell me, is a truck for commercial businesses. So it's one of those ones that can take that big sort of trash can, big dumpster and put it in their truck. So that's the reason for the purchase.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't agree with it, and I guess when we have a vote.
Julie, you don't agree with the price or you don't agree
No,
with
I
that
don't
as
agree with
part of
giving them sales tax exemption on a new truck through a pilot agreement.
In our pilot policy, is it delineated that way or is it?
Just to be, this is a very fine point, good discussion and a good thing to bring up, pilot, sales tax, mortgage recorded tax exemption, so I would kind of prefer it all as a pilot. Pilot's really relative to the sales tax stuff, or the property tax stuff. But, the board's approval of applications and the benefits we provide for projects are points, it's not always black and white. There's discretion at the board about cost and the benefit of providing benefits for projects and balancing the act when it comes to that. we had an approved project. And they reached out and said, things are more expensive and we're looking at other stuff. And they've asked us and the board to review an increase of the sales tax benefit that we're providing for them to do what they say is necessary to outfit the business.
And it fits
operate.
within our policy, so our
And I-
policy, it's okay to do this.
That's what I was asking.
It's not
And
even-
then it's also the delineation between a truck like this and a Mercedes in my mind is, this truck is cost of doing business, you know, in a sense.
in there.
So if you think about it that way, that's all I'm
But
saying.
the spirit of one of these agreements and the sales tax exemption is to equip the building.
That's why I'm asking about the that's why I'm asking
Not a
about the
truck.
policy.
Okay, so that, I've read this many times, and like I said, I do a little.
I mean, if we delineate
experience of
that way, then
With the
yes,
guy who
we
lost
got
his
an
job
issue.
with the
If we don't,
Mercedes.
right, then no. That's kind of where I'm at.
Right, I agree with Pam, the policy allows it, and
Right.
I'm fine
So
with
that's
it,
what
because we have a policy
right.
that says we can do that. If it
This
doesn't,
is not a deviation, this is within the general structure of the benefits that we provide. And it's certainly a point of discussion, as to the relevancy of the vehicle to the operation of the business actually, with this all was done.
So is there, are they in the first year of the pilot agreement? Was it
Correct,
like that?
yes, so they were approved in December and signed the pilot documents in December.
We're looking for 34,000 roughly increase
Yes.
over 10 years.
No, this is just for the sales tax
Yeah.
exemption, so this, and this would end, I don't think they extended it, but it was initially ending at the end of this year for the total project, for the development of the project. So it'd just be sales tax, it's not changing the real property pilot tax, just sales tax.
So typically, just to, when we provide the three categories of benefits, the mortgage recording tax applied at closing and when all the mortgages filed and all that. Pilot, pretty clear, right, Dave just said it, it's over 10 years and it's a schedule of payments of property that's off the tax rolls. Sales tax benefits typically are applied within a 1 or a 2 year period of the initiation of our agreement. And it's typically estimated based on a construction period or a period of time to build a building and outfit it and put everything you need inside. It sounds like this one's got about a 1 year benefit period. So it's kind of capped, if you will, as far as dates go and dollar amounts.
So there's no exclusions listed in the policy specifically.
As far as what the sales tax can be applied to. It has to be relevant to the outfit and operation of the business.
Which he was
Oh,
talking
we
about
don't.
Mercedes and looking at this is something that works with the business.
Yeah.
So,
No, the Mercedes was too. It was outside of what, if we were looking at the sales tax form itself, it would be more detailed, but, I'm just gonna vote no. And it's just that, I gotta, because I gotta, just, I'm just going from memory here, cause I was kind of unprepared, because I didn't see that when I first looked at it yesterday.
Does this decision have to be made today?
It's a great question for that. I would think, the sense I think we're getting is that they would like this done as soon as possible. That if they see this is part of their project that's vital to them operating their business on there, or in general, for that matter. But, we go through a process with these applicants. They propose us a project, they identify the elements of their project that are subject to sales tax, and put it in their application.
Just want to do like more time to look into it, or if you just rather just vote no, just.
Right, well, I'm gonna vote no, if we vote today, I'm voting no. Or if you wanna table it, I'll look into it and just get comfortable with the idea of, this guy getting 8% rate on a $395,000 truck on a pilot agreement.
The way I'm, as long as it's within the policy and it sounds like it is, I'm okay with it. I guess in my mind, I'm picturing it how we would do funding in a bank for a project. And this would be a cost that would fit in their expansion, because if not for the expansion, they would need the truck. So in my mind, that's how I'm kind of reconciled that, and if it's within, it sounds like it's within our policy, that would fit within our policy, and if that's the case, then I'm,
So let me
I'm
ask
in
you a
favor.
question on that. Would you hold chattel on that truck, on the title of that truck?
Sorry, you're asking me?
Yeah.
Are we leaning?
Well, yeah,
Is that what you're asking?
yeah, because if it becomes part of this project, this is a lease back agreement where the county actually owns the property until the pilot agreement is fulfilled, right?
No, not exactly, I mean, the IDA in the past has taken an ownership percentage of a project. We don't do that anymore. The general process involves a lease of the property to the IDA and then a lease back. It's part of the stack of documents that we enter into. So it's an agreement, pilot is an agreement, a lease is an agreement, a lease back is an agreement. There's an agency agreement, there's lots of broken out pieces of all of this. We do not, we will file a mortgage on the property to protect the pilot payments. We do not lien general commercial assets.
Okay, so that is so different from what I've been on this board for a while, like for instance, let's take Rootstock for instance. We were holding chattel on all the tanks and pipes. Now, mind you, it's not relevant, he paid it back, whatever, but that was the collateral
EDC,
that we were getting.
EDC,
Oh.
that's a loan,
Oh, okay,
right?
alright.
So the loans, we are leaning.
Oh, okay, I'm
UCC
sorry.
liens, that's okay. Okay.
I was just trying to
No,
think.
These rules
No, this is-
blended
this is
together
good,
very,
yeah.
very easily, trust me, Katie and I.
No.
I'll speak for me.
I was just trying
I'm
to think of an
constantly doing that,
example
and
of a pilot agreement where someone put a vehicle in the equipment subject to sales tax exemption. I'm just trying to think of any other agreement that we've ever looked at that had that.
I'm not sure we have, but it does happen.
it probably, I mean, if it's part of the project cost, I don't know that we would have, if it all
That's
came
the
in to
hard
begin
part about
with,
this, it's part of the
it would
project.
probably
Frankly,
be
this
Because
is
if they
shown,
don't have the truck, I'm assuming they can't continue with their business.
we were
That's what,
going
I
to-
don't know the
and it-
answer to that, but
and I
That's
think
why
in
I
the
asked this specific
beginning,
answer.
if we would have had it in the beginning, that number probably would have been lumped in the equipment number anyways. So I don't know that we would have had that level of detail.
Well,
If
they are
it's
required to
level.
break out, so vehicles are handled
Like
a little
break it out.
differently.
Right.
So if it's a vehicle as opposed to,
So it would have shown vehicle versus in the equipment or in the other
I think so.
figure.
I mean, they would, I know that there's a particular approach to vehicles. This is probably the best answer, if you have very specific questions about it, I do.
I think I'm okay with it. I think this vehicle is clearly for the business. They rely on vehicles too.
It wasn't this type of a truck.
If it was a Mercedes for a salesperson.
Right, I'm definitely not okay with it.
Okay, you can drive a Honda
Right.
or something else, doesn't have to be some luxury, but garbage trucks are garbage trucks. But again, this is the balancing act that the IDA generally plays is, the balance between what does it take to make a project a success, the benefits provided. I mean, there's a percentage of a loss to the county that gets a piece of sales tax. But it's the cost benefit of seeing the project come to fruition versus an upfront loss of some sense next generation. So.
Now, their initial
feel free to-
proposal was December,
yes,
and they didn't foresee the need for a new truck back then.
It would appear no.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if something broke and they were like, okay, now's the time. We had one, but it's not working well, or it's not working at all. We need this for the operation of our business.
if there's nothing in the policy that we have that doesn't exempt anything specific, I don't see how you can tie this in the initial project.
I mean, just to be clear, so any deviation from our policy would be considered deviation and require, there's a whole process and procedure associated with that. This is not that, but it is not black and white when it comes to the board's subjectivity of the application of any benefits that we provide, whether it's through a pilot, mortgage recording tax exemption, or sales tax exemption. So there's, I don't want to use the word negotiation, but there is a consideration of the board on the benefits that we provide and the relevancy of a piece of equipment for a business piece of equipment, using that very generic way.
My question was, is there anything that keeps them from coming back to us in 6 months and saying, I need another?
That keeps them from doing it? No. Other than, well, yeah, there's a term limit on their benefit. We've had projects that go, we've had projects that go over the bookend period of time. We say, okay, you know, as you're outfitting your business and building your building, this is the period of time you can claim your sales tax benefits. And there have been projects that just get delayed or extended for whatever reason. They come and say, hey, can you extend the deadline period for another 6 months to a year? We say, we've said yes to that in the past. I think we've had at least one who's come back and said, hey, I'm hitting my head up against my sales tax cap benefit. And we've approved additional costs. I'll say, that's a side, I don't know if you covered that. So that truck represents an additional $394,500 of project costs. We're charging them an agency fee associated with that additional project cost, so it's 1% of.
So if they come back again, they'll still have to pay agency fees and attorney fees.
And attorney fees, by the way, yes.
Keep Amanda's tax schedule in mind, it's okay, I'd like to do one vote to see if we wanna table it, and then go from there. Does that sound reasonable?
Sure.
I put on a motion to table this until next month, do I have a second?
Second.
Vote on that?
I'm okay voting.
I mean, I'm fine voting if we wanna vote now.
Okay, we're through,
I'm fine with the resolution.
okay, so that goes down, so let's bring the motion, motion to accept this.
So moved.
Second.
That's a little.
We go down, Kim,
Yes.
you do not,
And I'll be-
and not here, Amanda?
Yes.
Okay, I'll say yes, and we pass.
I appreciate the questions. These are good
Yes,
conversations.
yeah, these are good.
They're great, I mean,
Housing discussion. You know, for the past few months, I think we've had some good discussions in regards to housing and potential updates to the UTEP and a workforce housing policy. We had a few questions last month in regards to the assessments and the homestead exemption, as well as developers and their take on pilots. So I did reach out to some assessors and Don, as a developer that we know. For the assessment piece, I did reach out, I asked about the homestead exemption. That is obviously available, but we don't have a community that I know of that has a homestead exemption. Most of them technically tend to be towards New York City, and just because of how their assessment takes place. And when I looked at the homestead exemption, it typically goes for a lot of those smaller units, like the 1, 2, or 3 units. So I don't think it would also really, if there was a homestead exemption, it would be for the smaller projects than larger projects. And then when I was talking about, you know, do you guys use a number, you know, 4 or 6, you know, here in planning, we often use 4 or more. What is your take? And after speaking in particular with the Newark assessor, he says, well, once you get to 4 or more, that's when it's considered commercial and you assess it differently. And so what I did is, and I took a look at the New York State Tax and Finance website, which, you know, lists all of the property classes, and when you take a look at residential, it technically does a lot of the smaller units under the residential piece, 1, 2, or 3, and then when it gets larger, it comes into this sort of commercial piece. So it sort of fell in line from the conversations I had with the assessors. So that being said, I did make an update to the UTEP. It's on page 3. I put 4 or more instead of over 4 units, just to fall in line with the assessment piece. And then I also did that with the workforce housing policy, saying 4 or more units. So those are the only 2 changes I did per the conversations I had. But again, I wanted to show this to the board, see if you had any thoughts or comments about that number, because that was a conversation piece last meeting. And then also just to give you an update on my discussion with a developer. You know, they are in favor of a pilot for housing. I mentioned the terms that we were talking about, and the terms tended to be often in line with developers and their loans, because typically they refinance after 10 to 15 years, more typically after 10 years. So they said that that's often a good time frame to have. So they weren't against that. They still said that developers will come and ask for a 30-year pilot, just like, you know, we showed that piece of the executive director updates, so that's a 30-year term. But to also allow in our UTEP the ability to discuss or deviate, which we do have in our pilots, not just for housing, but for other projects. Like, for example, we have deviated for hotels. And so that is available in our UTEP. So that being said, I think those conversations went well. I think it was a great input from the board about the assessment piece. Thank you, Julie, for that. And good conversations with the assessors. And then, you know, John's take on the pilot piece was also good to hear. Although he did say workforce housing can be a challenge here in Wayne County. So it's just a food for thought. His point of view. And a lot of it has to do with just the costs. You know, the 2 major things that developers are seeing these days is that interest rates are high and construction costs are high.
I think, well, I think Katie's done a great job with this. I think, you know, this is the balancing act between just flat out deviating to accommodate projects and having a policy to follow, right? So we're not deviating for every one-off project and negotiating and going through this whole process. It sends a clear message, I think, to the development community that we are here and we're supportive of these different types of housing projects. But it helps create a baseline, and I think a really sturdy basis for, yes, we're supportive, yes, we're providing benefits. But we're not, you know, 30-year pilots here, you know, we think 10's great. If you wanna make an argument that you can't do it without it, you can make your case, but we're gonna ask for, you know, probably a pro forma or you know, whatever details necessary to justify going outside of. These are probably debatable, but probably, I would say, a fairly generous benefit schedule to begin with. Housing projects are very, very tough right now. Hearing all of them, I mean, almost every day you hear from somebody, isn't it? Cost of construction and all the other permitting.
Wait too, so the length of time it takes, they just can't get the property.
Right. And then
That's
they
what
have to
makes
hold
sense
on
right
to
there too.
those properties, pay the taxes without any income coming in. It's a challenge.
We are working towards closing on the point. I signed paperwork this week, so it's all coming together as we speak here.
So my understanding is to allow this to go forward, the next step would be to reach out to all the taxing jurisdictions.
Yes, yes,
The towns and schools and villages,
yes,
and get their opinion,
yes.
and then we'll go from there.
Yes, what we would do is we would provide them the UTEP policy and say that we are updating it. We have it on our agenda for for whatever meeting we have. If it's August 26th, then it'll be August 26th. And we give them an opportunity to either provide comments at the meeting, at the beginning, or provide an opportunity at the beginning for that, or for them to provide a letter to Brian in regards to the UTEP updates. And it would just be the UTEP update. We don't have to do that for the housing policy. We will have it on our agenda, but it's not the UTEP, it's a separate policy. So just as a differentiation of the two, but we can pass them at the same time.
I just wonder if August might be an odd time, so if we should wait till the September meeting, but.
It's fine with me.
Either what, August or September?
September, we don't wait.
So this July 19th, 2023 effective date is what?
Oh, so that was just, so that was the last time we updated it.
Oh, I got
And I put it in red because we will have to change that date.
Oh, yeah.
So the last time we updated the UTEP was July 19th, 2023.
As long as we update it, haven't changed.
Yes.
So I'd be okay with letting you go ahead and let them know that the September meeting, they can
Sounds good.
Yep.
come and talk.
That way it gives them
Yeah.
enough time to.
I know school
Kick
district
it
and
around.
stuff is crazy.
Yeah, summertime, yeah.
We don't need anything, that's no motion.
We don't need a motion.
Sounds good. Is that it on the housing?
That's it on the housing piece, unless there's any other comments.
On the fiscal officer?
Yes, fiscal officer piece, so I updated the account balances. It's typical around this time, we will start seeing changes come, September with the pilot payments. So that will be a change. If you go to the next page, I also just did an update of the money market and the interest we've been receiving each month. And then as Brian mentioned, we are in the process of closing Harbor Point Macedon. There's a solar project that also might be closing soon too, that was approved a little while ago. With 112 West Miller Street, we are just, the developers waiting for some final approvals from the state in order to take their next steps with that project. And as well, another project we have out there is also the Westbury Lands project. We did approve a pilot back in, also, I believe it's December as well, December 20, it might have been November, but Westbury Lands for the Westbury lumber project over at Butler Prison also received a pilot towards the end of the year in 2024. Once the transfer of the property occurs, we'll also be doing the pilot at the same time. So that's also another project that's on the docket.
Questions on that? I'm not sure if you have anything additional to add.
No, not to the fiscal office report.
No, the executive.
So final versions of docs have been circulated for the closing of the correction facility deal. Just we're close to putting pen to paper, getting documents signed.
So you got over that one hurdle?
Yes, I think we are over, yes. Not to say there might be one or two more, I think we're clear. This has been a really longer road than frankly I had hoped for. But here we are. I think the ducks are lined up now. We'll be working through signing agreements. Our general due diligence on disposition, I think, is done for the most part, but there are a few nuances and details here. But I expect this to come together in the next, let's say, 8 weeks. And then we'll get to a closing in September-ish, maybe October. But getting through that process, it'll be a really quick transfer of property from the state to the IDA to Westbury, will kind of happen with the same day or a day or two of each other, so we won't be holding title or anything very long, so getting that process lined up in and of itself, I think has been, it's not just a one-step process here at property transfer, it's two of getting those all. I think we are in good shape. I'll say, Katie mentioned that solar, we have 6 or 7 solar projects kind of lined up in the queue. They're not in application, but we are aware of them and they are in development at various stages across the county. We are, there was I saw an article the other day about, I don't remember where this was, I don't remember if it was in Canada or not, but some neighbors expressing concerns about the loss of farmland, rural character, and we are moving forward with, so the county's ag and farmland protection plan, and our policy relative to the provision of benefits for solar projects and this balancing act, so we've been on several calls, and we elaborated on our plan to charge additional costs to projects that occupy mineral soil groups 1 through 4. And we have a schedule together and we're prepared to do that, not getting any pushback so far on that one, which I thought we might. But I think there's this balancing act between the accommodation of the solar project's interest in moving forward and then frankly all the benefits that they're getting. Lots of big picture discussions, by the way, about all this and property assessments and New York State Department of Tax and Finance. I had a call the other day from LMAC, who is opting out of the 487, which all this at the end of the day, and the county's done this, I would advise every municipality to do this, but it's start from a position of being fully taxable as opposed to starting from a position of being tax exempt. I think it makes all the difference in the world. It really puts taxing jurisdictions in the driver's seat. If you get the chance, I try to do my best. There's turnover and changes across the board, dependent where, but I continue to try to make sure I let everybody know that the IDA is in a position to handle this business on behalf of everybody, frankly, and hopefully everyone sees it as a benefit. Our use of our attorneys, the projects paying of those attorneys as opposed to a school district paying their lawyer, go through a whole process of developing and executing a pilot agreement, we can handle this whole process in-house, and then the ongoing management of those contracts over the period of that pilot. Potential for a few hiccups here and there. FYI, so there was a CalMac project, but it was outside of Wayne County, where a project was made. Municipalities who had not opted out received notice from the solar developer. You get 60 days to respond to that notice, and if you don't, they can move forward as fully exempt without a pilot. And they did, and they are exempt from property taxes because those taxing jurisdictions did not give notice. There's some lawsuits or other things I think in development, but at the end of the day, not opting out put them in a position of making sure the right person saw a letter that ended up at someone's desk and apparently didn't make its way through the ringer. Not replying to that notice means they're exempt, so opting out eliminates that whole process and that potential for projects to develop and at the end of the day not provide any tax benefit, pilot or otherwise, to taxing jurisdictions, which would really be a shame.
In the towns, do you see a lot of the Genesee Land Trust, those grants coming through? What percent right now does anyone know in Wayne County is in those land trusts of land, do you know, roughly?
Off the top of my head,
Just
no, but
roughly.
the Ag and Farmland Protection Plan, I would almost guarantee has that number in it. It's posted on our website, we could probably.
I was just
more
curious,
today,
no, you get it, I'm just curious, cause my husband and I are going down there, for our farm, so it's just interesting.
The farmland preservation,
I mean, that's,
we have a lot.
Yeah, and I was just curious because when talking to them, there's a lot of farmers that are on this list for Wayne County, because of the protection and all that kind of stuff, and the grant, of course, obviously, that's a key driver. But I was just curious because obviously if more and more farmers do that, how does that look, right?
And also remember in our UTEP too, in 2023, we did add in the solar renewable energy project section information, to provide some funding to an agriculture land preservation fund for solar projects that are in middle soil groups 1 through 4. So we haven't utilized this yet because there's been sort of a lull in solar projects for the past few years, but that is something that has been incorporated into our Utah.
The prime point, I mean, that's the plan, things, you know, we will develop a fund and we'll effectively, we'll work with the Genesee Land Trust.
Yeah.
But identify property.
There's so many people across the state that are doing it right now because Ross and I are going through this process, but she's basically saying it's probably gonna take 2-ish years before this comes to fruition for us. And the other interesting thing is our farm is across a couple different towns. So it's like, now I gotta say to myself, I gotta kind of recoup it. It's crazy.
It's a process.
Right, it's really a process, so, but it's interesting, cause she just said there's a lot of farmers that are on this list. And only a few can come through a year, that's another, there's just a lot of things going on.
This
It's
is,
really an interesting, it's interesting conversations that I've been having with her just in, Wayne
Who
County.
ultimately approves it? Is it the state?
It's a state,
Okay.
yeah, so Genesee is ours, the trust here, but there's others obviously around the state, and then the money gets parsed to the different agencies, so to speak, and then that's how that works.
Applications are developed locally, approved by the municipality,
Right, cause I've gotta
supported by
go
the Ag
to,
and Farmland Protection Board,
yeah, exactly,
and submitted to, right, but that process is, always local support stuff
Right.
that has to happen,
Yeah.
including the county. Now, so this is a part of different hat, okay? The county, the requirement for the submission of an application for funding for this program requires a letter from a planning official. So my capacity as the county's planning director, I read a letter that says, yes, there is development pressure, right? So the purpose of the grants are for farmers to say, someone approached me and said they'll buy my 100 acres for a new housing subdivision. Farming is important, but I have a potential here to sell my farm for $1 million. So in lieu of me selling it for $1 million in this state, realizing this loss of farmland, give me $1 million and it can be farmland forever, or give me $2 million, whatever the number is. But the balance is, we're not just giving farmers money to keep it a farm forever, there's gotta be this balance between development pressure and preservation of farming. So, our evaluation of, our ag development specialists, our planning staff, and identifying this is why permitting and sharing permit information from municipalities is so important, so that we can track development permits over time, identify locations, create GIS maps and all this other stuff to say, yeah, there's been 6 new residential subdivisions in the county, 3 of which are located within whatever a certain radius of this piece of property, so there is some development pressure, so we can justify the preservation of this farmland. So, fine points, but this balancing act between the preservation of farmland, the accommodation of development, when we increase our tax base, but in the right way and in the right place. This is where the IDA's support and participation in this county strategic plan, if you will, or smart growth plans relative to all of this stuff. We want to accommodate solar, we want to accommodate new
but
housing
that's why I
projects.
asked about it, I'm curious, the bigger picture. I mean, it's a process, and that's a whole nother issue, it's just,
We probably
what's
had
the-
7 to 9 farms that I did, and
Right.
then we started to work with Genesee.
because it could get to a point where the towns, whatever town that is, they could come in and say no, because we've already got too many. That's kind of where we're going. So,
And each town, in our town anyway, was a percentage.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of farmland preservation, we're not
Yeah.
even close to what the town was.
Yeah.
So I was surprised at that, but we have a lot,
so that's good, yeah.
but we're not even close to the percentage, yeah.
Do the firms have to do environmentals?
I didn't when I bought the farm. And I didn't when I
But
bought
to
my
get
farm.
to sell the development rights to the land,
There hasn't been any talk about that at this point.
you could develop the land.
Phase one.
It's something like phase 1, phase 2.
If they were.
I mean, cause
eligible to
obviously
be-
back in the day, I bought my grandparents' farm back, so I know what
you know.
But they did, and you know, but yeah, when I bought it back, like when I bought the gravel pit, that was completely different.
Sure, yeah.
They came in with a posse.
Yeah.
I mean, I had everybody under the sun poking, digging, but when I bought the farm, I was surprised that wasn't even part of any discussion, which was interesting because you're using, now the chemicals aren't as bad, but back when my grandfather farmed, they were bad.
Well, and you know, a lot of farmers have landfills too, on the property. And
Absolutely.
I just wondered if.
I know nothing about that.
But I just wondered if that was part of the process.
Yeah, no, they didn't, yeah, nobody ever, cause you know,
Or
when
you
you go
won't get $1
through
million
those.
to never develop your land and never have to worry about that land going back.
Yeah.
Have to worry about that tank that leak.
Yeah,
You never
exactly.
have
I
to worry
mean,
about anything.
none of those potential liability issues go away.
Right.
Right, if anyone, you can only use it for a farm, if I'm buying a farm, it can only be a farm. I would wanna do all that. Excuse me. And it would be appropriate for
If you were
somebody.
buying a farm
Right,
from some, like say,
the current owner says, I'm done
Say,
farming and I wanna sell my farm,
say the county gave, or the state, whatever, gave my neighbor Emil $1 million for his conservation
easement.
easement.
Mhm.
And then, you go to Emil, hey, I wanna buy your farm from you, he's already got the $1 million.
Mhm.
Now, he's still gonna want, you know,
I'm gonna sell, it's always, I've got my $1 million because, so I can't sell it to any housing developer or anything like that, but it's always gonna be a farm. It's my farm right now, I'm liable for everything that's on that farm. If I sell to somebody, they're liable too.
And that's the thing, that stays, once that's done, that's preservation land, right? And
I mean, it
can
doesn't
never-
change ownership.
It can never come
It simply
out.
says I can't do anything else other than use it for farming. It's an easement.
So it can be a risk for the farm too, depending on what you're doing. You know, you have to,
Someone could
I've got-
150 years from now, someone could say, I'll buy that farm and turn it houses for $100 million.
it's a process, like I said, I mean, I'm at the table now just parsing through, you know, the whole deal. And see where it goes, but it's just interesting to me because as that's out there, I've talked to a lot of farmers that are definitely very interested in going down this path. How far they'll get, I have no idea, cause it is a long process. And then there are percentages, that's what I was kind of getting at, per town, so all of a sudden, all the farmers I know in Sodas do it, then Scott may come back and say, oh, sorry, Kay, I'm done, you know, so,
Sure.
you know, that's kind of, if I'm waiting, so that's why I was kind of asking, because I'm curious if it takes me 2 to 3 years, there could be a whole bunch of people in front of me and mine's gonna get void or no, or whatever.
There are a whole bunch of people in front of me, this is
Oh, and then I know
statewide, they
that, so I
allocate
mean,
funds.
you go in wide open, because when I talked to Ashley, that's what she said, she goes, there's quite a few people. It doesn't hurt to get in line, obviously, but you know, it may get to a point where it's done, so.
I love this conversation, as a planner, this leads me to other really, so, the Ag and Farmland Protection Plan recommends, we talk about that coverage and, you know, how much solar is there in Wayne County, right? Compared to what the state schools are, we're interested in doing our fair share, but not beyond it, like everybody's gotta contribute, we're not just gonna cover Wayne County and solar fields and landfills, all this other stuff, so. The Farmland Protection Plan was very particular about having a reference to solar. But this begs other big picture questions,
Oh,
which gets me
absolutely.
super interested and excited about the work that's in front of us, I think. What does Wayne County wanna be?
Well,
Wayne
that's,
County
it's
doesn't
all part of
necessarily
that,
what
you
it
know,
wants
that's,
to be,
it's
the
just,
town of Ontario, the
there's
town-
only so much land, so it's
But-
like, what are we doing, right?
Well, do you wanna be 90,000 people in perpetuity? We wanna be 100,000 people, we wanna be a community of 200,000 people. 200,000 people county changes the funding game in a big way. The county would be a direct recipient of HUD funds every year, we wouldn't have to go beg the county for CDBG stuff,
Yeah.
state, excuse me.
The town of Maston would rather not, thank you.
What's that?
The town of Maston would rather not be that big, but thank you.
Well,
We're already
but that begs the
struggling with
question.
how much, we've got so much
I mean-
going on right now, it's almost like,
Well, what does
how
the town
fast
have to
do
fund?
we go?
Yeah, well, and
But
I
we
think-
just finished our.
Yeah, and I think
zoning
that's what a
session.
smart growth
Do
plan
you
can help
get a
with.
big check for waste management every year because of the expansion? So Maston's like a whole
It's
different
not an
animal.
expansion, it
Well,
was already in the original plan, but
Yeah.
Harrington is full.
That's what I meant to say, they expanded
By your phone.
out of into Massillon, and I just wondered if you got the same sweet deal over at Fairfield.
Ours is sweet.
Sweet, nice.
Well,
I'm a bit
That is
lost.
good.
Don't say
Is there any other,
But
other business?
Yeah, we can adjourn, I'm just pontificating, yeah, but I think it's,
Yes, so moved.
I'm talking to everybody here.
Mark, yeah, let's adjourn.
Yes.
What do you got?
I always try to make the end of the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there you go.
Just have a lunch.
Yeah.
Just in time.